our vessel once it has its handles on it. And so it is not due today. Like the final is not due today. The final video and artist statement is due on Monday for you. So if you are a hybrid kid who's going to be coming to school on Monday, bring your COIL project with you. You don't have to bring your swag bag on Monday. You'll have to bring it eventually. But if you're going to bring your project back on Monday, I would advise you to just focus on bringing that project back really safely, and then bring your swag bag back on Wednesday, on your second in-person day this next week. So people who are here on Monday in person, you'll be able to turn your project in here in person and be able to finish it here. If you're hybrid B day, so your first day back in person is on Tuesday, you'll have to turn your project in at home on Monday by filming the video and uploading it like normal. So there'll be a lot more kids back in the room next week. We've got 9th graders and 10th graders back in the room next week. Everyone will have to bring their swag bag back at some point next week. If you're hybrid, just bring it back to school the day that you come to school, either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. If you want to drop it off before school, so you're not carrying it with you to your first and second hour, that would be totally fine. You could drop it off here before you go to first hour. You got to bring your swag bag back though by Thursday. So you're not going to be here on Friday. So I don't want anybody to think that they have Friday to turn stuff in. You got to bring everything back by Thursday of this week, please. And VLA kids, that means you'll have to make a special trip to be able to bring your swag bag back. And don't just leave it in the office, because I'm not going to be looking for your stuff in the office. You're going to bring it back to my room. You're going to unpack everything that's in there. You're going to put the ruler in the ruler bucket. You're going to put the roller in the roller bucket, etc. All right, you're going to be unpacking it. So please make sure everything is clean when you bring it back. So that'll be worth 50 points. That's part of your final, is bringing your swag bag back by Thursday of next week. The other part of your final next week is cleaning up your home studio. So as soon as you're done with your COIL project, that's your last project. So clean everything up, wipe your table, the cloth that you taped down to your table, unpeel that, wash the cloth, put it in your swag bag, clean up the table, clean up the floor, clean up all your tools. And then you're gonna get 50 points to take a photo of your clean home studio. So I'm giving you 50 points for something your parents were gonna make you do anyway. And that's the other half of your final. So you get 100 points next week for bringing in your swag bag, bringing in any dry clay, any wet clay, any tools, and then also cleaning your home studio, whether it was a tote bin or a table or whatever it was. You got to clean it and take a photo. All right, that's a lot of points. So don't walk away from those points. Make sure you bring everything back, clean your home studio, take a picture. Okay, and I'll be reminding you about that next week. All of that is due by Thursday of next week. People who next week are back in school and are done with everything, once you finish your COIL project, you can glaze. Anything that's been fired can be glazed next week. You can bring things in that you want me to fire, and I'll fire them over spring break, and you can come back after spring break, even if you're not my student anymore. You can come back and glaze them after spring break in the afternoons. I think after spring break, or after we go back to full in-person learning, I'll talk about that in a second, I think I'm gonna have what I call Mud Club. I'm gonna reinstate Mud Club, which is one day a week where people can come in and work with clay. And so if I can limit that and have it be only a certain number of people each week, then you could come and be part of Mud Club and continue your work with clay and glazing and all that. So I'll talk more about that next week too. But in-person learning, I don't know if you guys heard about this last night. We got a message from the district saying that on March 18th, we're gonna be back to everyday in-person learning. Hallelujah, I'm so excited about this. So if you're a hybrid kid, you're gonna be back full time. It'll still be only 3 class periods a day. We'll still have trimester 3.1 and 3.2. You'll still be done with school by 1:35 in the afternoon. But you'll be there every day. No more of this A day, B day nonsense, which I'm so thrilled about. It'll be great to see kids here every single day. And if you're VLA, you're just going to be doing everything still at home every day, kind of how we were when we were distance learning, or how you've been now, I guess. So VLA kids will just keep on keeping on working at home. Hybrid kids will be here every single day, except Friday. I think Friday is the day where everybody is still virtual. I have to double check that, but I think that's the case. So that's exciting news. So before I jump into the lesson on handles, does anybody have any questions about in-person learning or next week's finals? No questions? Okay, great. If you think of a question and you want to save it for the very end, that would be awesome. Okay, so I am going to, actually, we're going to do this. Better view. Okay. So up to this point on your coil project, you have been working on coiling. I'm going to make this be higher. There we go. You've been working on coiling. You've been working on melding. Yesterday, the assignment was to work on scraping and shaping. And so I had you use your plastic card to do some vertical scraping, horizontal scraping, smoothing with your sponge. I had you cut your plastic card. Some of you may not be able to cut the plastic card, and it's okay if you can't do this. But if you can cut your plastic card, I had you cut it and do what's called an undercut, scraping around the bottom of the piece. I had you smooth down there and write your initials and hour number on the bottom. So this form should be as neat as possible today, and it should be leather hard today. Also, I should have said this yesterday, but one of the things you could add still is an extra coil of clay or an extra little scoop at the front to make your vase become a pitcher. So to make that little scoop, and again, sorry, I should have showed you this yesterday, I just rolled a coil in my hands, okay, so a little tiny coil, and then I kind of held my hands at a V shape to roll one side of the coil to be more pointy, and then same thing on the other side to make the coil more pointy on that side, and then I just flattened it. So it's like that, kind of like a mustache, and then I curved it, and that's what I put on the lip of my pot to make it come up like that. I scored, slipped, and melded it in, and that's how I made it be a pitcher. So sorry that I didn't say that yesterday. If you want to do it and your clay is still leather hard, you can totally still do it. And then yesterday, as I was working with my third hour students who are here, I decided that my little pitcher kind of looked like a baby penguin. So I just added some other features to the clay. You are more than welcome to be creative and add other features to your vase or your mug or your pitcher or whatever it is that you're making. It's not a requirement to add a design to this project, but you absolutely can if you want. And that includes engobe. If you want to paint a design on your vase project, you totally can. If you want to carve or stamp or draw anything into the surface of the clay or add other features to the clay, you certainly can. It's just not required. So it's not something you have to do. All right, what you do have to do is add a handle or handles. And so that's what I'm going to show you today. It is a requirement to add a handle. So if I'm going to do a pitcher typically has a big handle that's proportional to the form. Like a big pitcher would need a big handle, one that you could fit your whole hand inside to pick it up easily, because once there's a beverage in here or lemonade in here or whatever, this gets really heavy. So you need your whole hand to hang on to that pitcher. If you're doing a vase, you don't usually pick up a vase by its handles. So the handles could be big or the handles could be small. Here's a little vase that has what we would call lug handles. These are little tiny handles that aren't really functional. They're more decorative. And I was telling my kids who were in class yesterday, one of the things you could do is you could add 2 or even better 3 or 4 of these little lug handles. And then after it's fired, you could put string through there and have this be a hanging plant holder. So those lug handles would be how you would put the string through the little handle, so you would be able to hang it if you wanted to. So that's the thing you could do for your handles if you wish. If you're doing a mug, you would have a smaller handle, one that's meant for 1 finger, or maybe 2 fingers, or maybe 3 fingers, so that you can pick up that coffee or that tea very easily. And you can see with a pitcher or with a mug, a handle is typically like half a heart. So that half a heart shape is just a really comfortable shape where the pressure rests on this nice curve of the handle, and so it's not so unpleasant to hang on to. So if I'm going to make a handle for my little penguin pot, I'm going to start by just rolling one more coil of clay, right? You've probably gotten pretty good at this point. So roll one more coil of clay. And because this is kind of a bigger, fatter shape, I'm going to leave my coil a little bigger and a little fatter. Okay, and if it starts to turn into an oval, perfectly fine. Most handles are kind of an oval shape anyway. So now I'm going to take my sponge, and I'm going to make my sponge be in kind of a U shape. See how it's kind of U-shaped? And I'm going to let that sponge smooth out my handle. So I'm kind of putting that U shape around the sides and also the top. So I'm kind of squeezing that coil that I made to really streamline it and strengthen it and make it really nice and flexible. If I pinch it really hard as I'm doing this, I start to get a spine. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a ridge down the middle of my handle. It's not a requirement to do that ridge, but I do want you to do a little bit of smoothing on that handle just to really make sure that things are really smooth and streamlined. I'm also going to tap the sides a little bit just to square those up a little bit on my canvas. Oops, I lost a little bit of it there. And then I'm going to take my card and I'm going to cut away whatever is not looking very good. So what I've got left is the best part of that handle. So now I'm going to take this handle and I'm going to start to curve it into the shape that I want, that half of a heart shape. And as you look at this handle that I've made here, see how this end is just kind of blunt? And if I were to put this on my pot here, it doesn't fit very flush with the surface of my pot. So I'm going to lay it down on its side on my table here, and I'm going to cut, again, with my plastic card, I'm going to cut straight down both at this top part of the heart, and I'm going to cut straight at the bottom part of my heart. So now, see how this and this are at the same nice flat angle? Now, when I put this on the surface of my clay, it meets that surface at much more of a correct angle. It's going to be much easier for me to score and slip. But I just made this coil and it's really soft and saggy, right? It's not holding its shape very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that handle that I made, and maybe I'll do something kind of fancy. Maybe at the back end, I'll just do a little flip up with it, kind of curl it up a little bit. You can be as fancy as you want with your handle. Maybe you want to make your handle into a dragon and have that dragon climbing up the side of your whatever it is that you've made. Or maybe you want that handle to be braided, and you can braid your pieces and put them together. But no matter what kind of handle you're going to do, you're going to make it, and then you're going to let it get leather hard. So I would put it on your tray. If you have a fan or a hair dryer, put it in front of that fan for about a minute, hair dry it for maybe 30 seconds, because we want to firm it up and get it leather hard. So I'm going to set my plastic handle over there, and because this is like a cooking show, and I got one ready to go, ready to come out of the oven. Here we go. This is my leather hard handle that I actually made yesterday and wrapped it up really well, so it's holding its shape really well. This is what I'm going to attach to my penguin pitcher. So I've got my towel here. I'm going to lay my project down on the towel so it doesn't roll around and it doesn't get damaged. Because this is a pitcher, I need to make sure that my handle is directly right across from the spout, which it looks like it is. Then I'm going to take my fork, and I'm going to mark where the handle connects. And you're going to do this even if your handle is really little. You're still going to attach it in the same way. You're going to mark where it goes, or your multiple handles if you're doing more than one. You're going to score and slip heavily, especially since my clay is a little bit dry leather hard today. I'm a little bit worried that things aren't going to come together very well. So I'm doing some really deep scoring to the clay. And then I'm going to do some really deep scoring on my handle. And then I'm going to put the two scored pieces together. I'm going to put some firm pressure pressed into the clay so that that handle really goes into the score marks. Same thing up here. I'm going to put some firm pressure on there so that the score marks really grab onto each other and create that nice Velcro effect. And then I need to wrap a tiny coil of clay around my two connection points. So I'm going to take some clay in my hand, and I'm gonna make an itty bitty little tiny coil, and I'm gonna wrap that around this connection point, and then inside and around the bottom connection point. I'm gonna put that extra bit of clay there, and then you can use your popsicle stick or just use your fingertips to do some melding. So I'm gonna blend that little coil so that my handle is actually wider where it joins the body of my pot. So a handle should be wider where it attaches, so it's really, really strong. And so it looks like it's kind of growing into the surface of your clay. Boy, inside there, it's really hard for me to get to, so I'm gonna use the end of my knife to do my melding inside there. My finger doesn't really reach inside there very well. And then I'm gonna meld all the way around here. And then I'm gonna do my final smoothing so that that new bit of clay, the new coils and the handle and everything look as good as the rest of my pot. You can use your wet paintbrush to get down inside that area where your sponge maybe can't reach very well. Okay, I better look at this from above. That needs a little bit more melding. So once your handle is on there, oops, you're pretty much done with this project. Do any last double checking to make sure that you melded everything really well and smoothed things really well and scraped things really well. Make sure your name is on the bottom. But once that handle is on there, that's your final step. That's your final requirement for this assignment. So your one handle or your two handles, or however many handles you wanted to put on that project. So if you finish today, wonderful. That's great. Remember, it's not due until Monday. So those of you who are behind, you have some extra time to get caught up. But if you finish today, great. Take your photo for today. Your photo assignment is to photograph whatever your handles look like on the pot, scored, slipped, and melded. And then just bag it, but you can loosely bag it over the weekend. So next week, when you bring it to school, hopefully it's still kind of in that leather hard stage. So if it accidentally breaks on your way here, we can still repair it if it's leather hard. The other reason I want you to let it dry slowly and not let it dry out all the way, even if you're done, is this handle is thinner than your pot. And so this is gonna wanna dry really quickly. This is gonna wanna dry really slowly. And if this dries more quickly than the pot itself, this will crack. Your handle will crack if it dries too quick. So just loosely bagging everything is a way to make sure that everything dries really evenly and it will be less likely to crack, okay? So those are your final steps for the coiled vessel. No matter what kind of handle you're using, make sure it's proportional to the form. Make sure that you score, slip, and meld it, and that it's balanced, either on the opposite side of the spout or on opposite sides of each other. If you want to add a design, great, add a design, and then just make sure that that's really neat and clean. And those are the things I want you to have in your mind today as you're moving towards finishing those final steps. So that is it for your lesson. I already went over the general stuff that you need to know about next week. So what questions do you have? I'm going to ask you an attendance question, so don't log out yet. So I'm going to have you type here in a second. But first, I want to ask if anyone has any general questions about anything that I can answer. Any other questions? Okay, if you want to stick around and ask me a question at the very end, that would be really awesome. Oh, I know one thing I want to tell you. I sent messages to a bunch of you yesterday. And so check your messages because you have a message from me possibly. And I would like your response to my questions that I asked in that message. So please double check your messages on Schoology. Also, there was a question about this yesterday, so I want to mention it to everybody. Whenever you turn in a project, like a video of a project, so your animal video or your slumped bowl video, I type comments on that submission. And so if you get points off and you don't really know why you got points off, it's in my comments that I typed there. So I don't know how easy it is for kids to see those comments that I type, but I wanted you to know that they're there. So if you have any confusion about why you got the grade you did, it's in the comments. Okay, so I have an attendance question for you. Please type your answer in the chat and then you can sign off for today. So I said that next week was going to be the day to bring back your swag bag. So I want you to tell me in the chat, what day do you plan or do you think you might bring back your swag bag? Type your answer in the chat. Once you're done with that, have a great weekend. Good luck with your handles. Have fun with it. Try to get done today or this weekend if you can. It's due on Monday. Thanks. Have a good weekend.